So you want to be rich. I mean, who doesn't want more money? Robert Kiyosaki said that the truth is that money doesn't make you rich, knowledge does. It's also been said that your life improves one book at a time. I don't know whose quote that is, but I'm sure today they would update it by saying, your life gets better one podcast at a time. And that's exactly what's going to happen today. In the last decade, my husband and I have read just about every possible book you can imagine on finance, money mindset, and investing. We've read some of the classics and some little-known gems, and these books have changed the trajectory of our life. It is in large part because we applied the knowledge that we learned in these books that today we can say that we are eight-figure earners. And today on The Chalene Show, I am going to break down for you the basics of the top 10 of the 20 most influential books that we've read on money mindset, financial literacy, and investing. I want to share with you the key takeaways that have had the most profound impact on our lives. I mean, these are the lessons that have helped us to live this life that we're living today. It's literally crazy. I mean, at least once a week, the two of us look at each other and we go, can you believe this is how we're living? And I'm not just talking about from a financial standpoint, I'm talking about from a freedom standpoint. Because we applied the principles of some of the books I'm going to share with you today, we have been able to completely eradicate our debt. We were nearly $500,000 in debt at one point. We've been able to acquire properties that we'd only ever seen in movies, traveling the world, staying in luxury hotels, and creating these insane experiences that are simply going to last a lifetime for the two of us and for our kids. The lessons that we've learned from these books have helped us to grow brands that today have helped millions of people. And I think before I go further, I just want to make it super clear that when I say the words rich or wealthy, it's not a flex. And I'm not just talking about like your financial status. I think to be rich and to be wealthy is to have abundance of relationships, happiness, experiences, to be richly blessed, to love every part of your life. And frankly, for me anyways, a big part of how I define that is freedom. Like freedom to me is so much more important than the money. We all know people who make a ton of money, but they are not free and they do not have freedom. Again, today I'm going to share with you 20 books, and all of them are going to be listed below in my show description, all 20 of those books and links to them, so they're really easy to find. But I also want to say that if you were just going to start with the 10 most important, I'm going to share those with you first. I feel like it's almost mandatory if you're going to talk about books that have impacted your thinking regarding money and mindset. You have to mention Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. But listen, this might not be very popular. I didn't like the book. I didn't understand the book. I remember thinking like, oh, I think my dad gave me the book initially. I might have read it in high school. I don't remember, but I read it again about 10 years ago, or tried to read it again. And I just didn't get it. Like it wasn't resonating with me. It wasn't actionable enough for me. So there you go. I'm just telling it like it is. So for me, I think you can skip that book. I think what was much more powerful for me anyways is an audio program called Prosperity Consciousness. And I've raved about this audio program since I purchased it. I don't know, back when cassettes were a thing. Okay. And so this one is on my list, and you're going to see a link to it below, but it's only available on Audible. And that is because, and I'm going to explain this in a second, it was never turned into a book. It was created by a gentleman by the name of Frederick Lehrman. And it is, from like maybe the 90s. But the principles and the concepts are true today. Like they're timeless. Now, when you do listen to, and there's something about his voice too, I listen to this once a year. Everyone I know, I tell them you have to listen to this book. And I know so many people that have said that this audio program, I can't even call it a book, has completely changed their money mindset. So I want to tell you I'm going to keep smacking my microphone. She's just like you'd think that I'm, is it Italians that speak with their hands? This particular Audible it's legendary. I think it's amazing, and it's a sleeper. Like anyone who knows about this book has given it a 5-star rating, but like very few people have listened to it. It is a gem, a hidden gem, and you're going to freaking love it. But there are a few parts where he's talking about like bank accounts and like I think ATM machines. When he recorded this audio program, there weren't cell phones, there weren't, ATM cards. Like I don't know. There's some pieces that are outdated, but the concepts in general are going to blow your mind. It is from this audio program that I bought, I don't know, 2 decades ago, that I really started to shift my thinking around some of the negative concepts I had about money. Like money felt like a bad thing. Like to say I want more money felt like a greedy thing. And it was this book that helped me think of money as just energy. And it completely shifts the way your mind works around money. And that's why I think you should start with a program or this audio program first, because like if you want to be wealthy, don't read an investing book. Don't even learn some of the principles of what wealthy people do until you freaking change your mindset. Because until you change your freaking mindset, none of that's coming to you. Abundance, money, all those things, you are going to repel them until you change your mindset. I've always been surprised that this book had never, or that this audio program had never been updated or turned into a book until I read The Psychology of Money. This is a very popular book. So, by the way, almost all of my books, I get the hard copy and I also will get the Audible program. So this one, I remember as I was reading it thinking like, this sounds familiar. Now I am not accusing the author of plagiarizing in any way, shape or form, but there's a whole bunch of concepts in The Psychology of Money that are also included almost word for word in Prosperity Consciousness. So these are two like really good back to back. What's great about The Psychology of Money is it goes far beyond Prosperity Consciousness. It's a must read. It is a absolute must read or listen to if you're an Audible listener. And I always say that because right now this is a podcast. And I think podcast listeners tend to, like, we like Audible. We like to listen to audio. Like we can't take a shower unless there's something playing. Are you with me? Am I the only one that does that? Am I the only one who will spend 30 minutes looking for the perfect thing to listen to for my 5-minute shower? What is that? Moving on to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think this is another classic. It's one you have to read. Robert Kiyosaki. And it's the story of like how he was raised by a dad who, the idea was work hard, get your retirement, and die with very little money, like try to save it. And then he had a friend whose father was an entrepreneur, and he taught him the value of leveraging your skills and understanding how to outsource and understanding how to work smart as opposed to working hard, and investments and the difference between liabilities and assets. This book is super easy to read, and it's a classic. You've got to read it. From there, I would suggest reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And I specifically remember reading the title of this book and thinking, this is such BS. This is such a clickbait title that it's not possible to work 4 hours in a week and be wealthy. Well, that's explained in the book. But the general concept behind Tim Ferriss's book is just learning that, again, it's learning how to outsource. It's learning how to leverage people, learning how to work smart, learning how to create passive income. And it really, in my opinion, 4-Hour Workweek really gives you practical steps. And when I read that book, that completely changed my outlook on outsourcing and delegating, especially things that I thought I had to do, especially those things that I believed, okay, well, if I hire someone to do this, I'm wasting money because I could do it myself. This book changes the game. As I mentioned in the intro, there was a point at which my husband and I got ourselves $500,000 in debt. And if you don't know about that story, you might go back and watch this video here where I talked about our money mindset. And this video also gives you the opportunity to take a little quiz to kind of test your own money mindset. But because we were massively in debt, when that happened, I really, and I'm just being honest, I knew nothing about our financial situation. I knew how to make money. I knew how to spend money. I didn't know anything. I had zero financial literacy. And that's embarrassing to say. It's embarrassing to say that at that time, I can say that we were close to making $1 million, but we were more than spending. Like, again, we were $500,000 in debt. So it doesn't matter how much money you're making if you're spending it all and doing some really dumb things, which we were doing. Did I mess up my hair? Okay, hair's okay. We can continue. Shalene, you're fine. Your hair is fine. When that happened, though, that was like a serious, like, rude awakening. Like, I was like, what am I doing? I'm a grown-ass woman, and I don't know anything about money. So the book that I dove into was called Women and Money: Owning the Power to Control Your Destiny by Susie Orman. I love Susie Orman. I met her once at QVC. Maybe I can find the picture of her and I together. Anyways, I think she's freaking awesome. I love her style. That book gave me the foundation in terms of my knowledge when it came to financial literacy. It is that book that basically told me that my self-worth was tied to money. And because I didn't understand money, all of these things were going to continue happening until I stopped telling myself the lie that, numbers overwhelm me and that's not my thing. I'm the creator. Like I had to stop using those things as an excuse. I had to stop saying things like, oh, I'm bad at money. Like I had to learn debt management from this book and what it meant to be financially independent. And that was like a scary time because, I didn't know what was going to happen to the two of us. I didn't know if I was going to be by myself with my kids. So I needed to understand the significance of having that financial literacy. The next book that I would highly recommend to you is by Ramit Sethi. I love him to death. Okay, so what I like about his book is it's a very practical approach. So if you're afraid of reading one of these books because you're like, I am so afraid that they're going to tell me I can't spend money on the things that I want to spend money on and I have to save all my money. Ramit really teaches you in a very practical way how to look at your finances, how to negotiate to get higher rates of pay, how to negotiate to get lower prices on all kinds of things that you don't realize you're just like leaving money on the table and money is like seeping through the cracks that it doesn't need to. He's got a very practical approach to saving and spending and investing and I love his style and I think it's just a very updated approach. It's a very updated, current, almost like a younger approach. And he also lays out like a step-by-step plan for achieving financial security, like for getting that financial independence that you're looking for. And then he goes a step further to show you like what it takes to actually build wealth. Love him. He's also got a series out on Netflix that's fantastic. So if you're like, I'm not a reader, but I'm a watcher, like maybe you're watching this right now on YouTube, then you want to check that out on Netflix. By the way, funny you should mention YouTube. If you're here right now watching this on YouTube, I have a question for you. Do you believe in karma? All right, good. So do I. And I just have to tell you, like, you are going to be blessed with so much good karma if you just subscribe and click the little bell notification. But you got to follow it up by in the comments, you need to put hashtag karma queen or karma king so that I know this message, like right here, right now, this is what it took to get you to subscribe. Thank you. All right. Back to our program. Moving right along. This book is one that, again, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but it is like such a game changer. This one is especially critical if you're considering building your own side hustle, creating your own passive income. If you're an entrepreneur, you've got to read this book. It needs to be mandatory. It's called Who, Not How. And this book is sensational. Again, all of these will be linked below in the description for the show, so you don't have to worry about writing them down. But this book helps you to change the way you think about what it takes to go to the next level at whatever that is. Like maybe that's in your business. He gets you to stop thinking about like, okay, what do I need to do? And shift that to who do I need to do this for me? Like, who do I need to know? Who do I need to tap into? Who do I need to learn from? Who do I need to hire? Who do I need to delegate this to? Who do I need to ask? So it's not the how. That's always what we're asking ourselves. We're like, because I get this question all the time. People say, well, how do I fill in the blank? How do I start a business? How do I evaluate? No, it's who. Who do you need to go to for that information? Which, by the way, if you were wondering, who do you need to go to help you figure out how to start a side hustle? Because you're going to learn in all of these books. Let me just say this. Let me just give you the synopsis right now of all 10, basically, these books that we read. Well, 20. All of them that relate to financial wealth. It's very, very clear. You need something other than a single stream of income. And for most people, a single stream of income is their job. And so if you're truly talking about accumulating wealth and freedom, it doesn't mean quitting your job. It doesn't mean letting go of your single stream of income. Maybe you've got one business, but it is learning how to leverage your money so that you can create more income opportunities. whether that's creating a side hustle or investments or stocks and annuities. Like there's so many other ways for you to build wealth. And you're going to hear this repeated and book after book after book of these experts. They're like, you can't rely on a single stream of income. So if that's something you like need to figure out and you want to know, like in 2023, because some of these books were written quite a while ago, in 2023, like where are the right, like legitimate opportunities that are low cost that I should be considering in, this decade? I did a video breaking those down and giving you some background information so you understand like which is best depending upon your personality, depending on what season you're in, depending on like how much time you have, depending upon like what things you like. Like, there's certain things, certain ways to make money that just like, you're like, I would never do that. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe you're like, I would never sell photos of my feet online. I'm not above it. I'm just saying, like, but there's certain things where you're like, that's just not my personality. I would never do that. Or that just doesn't fit with my lifestyle right now. So I break it all down and I help you understand like how it might work for you, which ones are a good idea for you, which ones might not be. And I also talk to you about like how much money it takes to start. Most of these are very, very low cost, and how much time it takes to start making some income. So I will link to that video, that episode below in our show notes. And it's also, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it's right here. Okay. Speaking of which, another classic is The Millionaire Fastlane. The Millionaire Fastlane, like every money mindset person talks about this book. And the concept of this book is basically that there are three paths. There is first what we would call the sidewalk, right? So if you're trying to move towards wealth, right, there's the sidewalk. And the sidewalk represents a lifestyle that's characterized by financial irresponsibility. It's doing things because it feels good. It's doing things because everybody else is doing it. It's excessive spending. And it really has nothing to do with how much money you're making because, I mean, like, frankly, I have friends who make over $1 million, but they are just, very irresponsible with their money, their spending, their lack of financial planning. And that's their choice. But what it leads to is a lot of financial struggles. It leads to asking your friends if you can borrow money. It leads to having to disappoint your kids. It leads to later in life going, shit, we can't do the things we wanted to do when we retired because we didn't plan appropriately. So the sidewalk represents like, if you're trying to be on your path, your journey to wealth, and you're on the sidewalk, you're freaking walking. Right. And so that's the first path. And the second path is what he calls the slow lane. So now at least you're on the freeway. Right. And so people who are in the slow lane, like they're a little better off than the people who are on the sidewalk. And again, this has nothing to do with how much money you're making. It's what you're doing with your money. So people who are in the slow lane, these are people who, again, they're on the highway, but it represents kind of this traditional approach and this traditional belief that when it comes to building wealth, you're supposed to get good grades, get a good job, get a good 9-to-5, diligently save your money over the long term, and just hoping that you're going to achieve some financial independence over several decades and that you're going to get to retirement and you're going to be like, okay, now we can finally live our lives. And it's just it's a slow lane. It's the slow lane. And very few people are ever going to become millionaires with that mindset and approach. And then the third lane is what he calls the fast lane. And the fast lane is really what this author is most excited about. And it's what he kind of endorses. It's entrepreneurship. It's creating multiple streams of income. It's creating scalable businesses, leveraging systems and technology and people and outsourcing and creating a financial freedom, like creating passive income where it's at all possible. And trying to do so in the short frame. Now, he doesn't say that this is for everybody. He does also acknowledge that it requires you to be disciplined. It requires you to take control and plan your financial destiny. It requires you to do the things and to learn things like you are right now. Like you are already, in my opinion, you're already on your way to the fast lane because you're listening to an episode like this. Like the person who's on the sidewalk, they might listen to this, but they won't apply any of it. They might read one or two of these books, but they won't apply any of it. None of these things in these books are going to change your life unless you actually apply what you learn. The last two books I have for you are investment books. And again, you don't need to bother reading anything about investment books until you change your money mindset, because until you change your money mindset, the whole investing piece is not going to work for you. This was really, really critical for my husband and I to get out of debt. At the time, we really only had one stream of income, that we were massively in debt. And we realized we had to create additional streams of income. And we also realized that we had to do so in a way that helped us to still prioritize our family and our kids and the life that we wanted to live. We didn't want to be working 24/7. So we knew we had to figure out how to be wise investors. What is considered the Bible of investing books, and I think this is the one that Warren Buffett always recommends. It's The Intelligent Investor. The Intelligent Investor is going to teach you the value of investing. It also breaks down like the margins of safety. They talk about like how to do defensive investing, which is really important, like all of these things, how to diversify your portfolio, focus on long-term value, not to freak out when the market goes down. Like you've got to be in it for the long haul. The emphasis in this book is to like set all emotions aside, like be wary of emotions. Think of your investments as a marathon, not a sprint. I mean, my husband, Brett, has a course called Money Mindset 101. By the way, if like you want financial literacy, shout out to Brett. I'll put a link to his program in there too, because he really breaks it down so simple. And he really geared this program to the woman who is like, numbers freak me out. I don't know anything and I feel too dumb asking these questions. He created a program that's just basic financial literacy. And that's the one thing that he says over and over again is like, when you start investing, you have to invest like it's a marathon, not like you're trying to make, a quick buck. And the 10th book for your must-read list, if you want to be wealthy, is Common Stocks and Uncommon Pitfalls. This is a book, again, that just really helps you to understand the basics of investing, like the key principles of investing. For example, like focusing on high quality stocks, not like the, quick ones. Oh, did you hear about such and such? No, like what are quality stocks? How do you evaluate a quality stock? Understanding how to look at investing from a long-term perspective. This book teaches you what information you need to gather about a certain company that you might be interested in before you invest in them, including evaluating the people at the top, the CEO, the leadership, the C-suite, how to evaluate a company's growth potential, how to balance out or diversify your own portfolio, but also protect against potential losses. And lastly, the book really emphasizes the importance of continually staying educated. It's just like learning the algorithm on social media. Like you can't just go, oh, I learned it and walk away. Like Brett and I, every single morning he does it for like 2 or 3 hours, just watches and listens to all the experts who are talking about the market, just learning about like what's happening in the world. How is this going to affect that stock? And like thinking about how do consumers spend money? What does it mean right now that everybody's on Ozempic and they're eating out less and they're buying fewer groceries? Like how is that going to impact stock prices? Like just paying attention to consumer trends and learning as much as you possibly can and being a lifelong student is going to help you to become much more wealthy. And as I've said from the beginning, to have that freedom that is the rich life. As I promised, all 20 books, actually I might have even put 21, 20 or 21 books will be below this episode in our show description. I've given you the 10 that I think are the most important to start with, but you never know, right? So like, why stop there? Make it a goal to master, like to read or listen to one of these every 2 weeks, right? So you can get 2 done. You can get 2 done this month, right? So by the end of the year, you could have finished more than every single book that's in this list. Wouldn't that be amazing? The key, however, as I said, is you've got to take action. Because if you don't take action, like what's the point? Here's my recommendation is when I read a book, I am taking notes. And that's why I love a physical book. I love underlining things. I love jotting down things in my push journal, which happens to be right here. In my push journal, things that like, okay, here's what I need to do. And don't be afraid to apply what it is you've learned. And if you're here on YouTube, can I ask you a favor? Can you click the like button and also leave me a comment? Okay, so here's what I want to know from you. Which one of these books sounds like the one you're going to start with? Tell me. And one more thing. I read every single freaking comment. I'm a freak that way. Like the second the video comes out, I'm reading every single comment. So leave a comment. That way I can read it. But here's the thing I love to find out from you. I'm like drooling. The thing I loved reading is how you found the video. Did you know me before you watched this video? Like maybe did you do one of my workout videos? Were you searching books to read on finance? I love figuring that out. So tell me that story. All right. I love you. I mean it. And I'll talk to you soon.